Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet the great Tyler Dickerhoof. He is the author of the upcoming book, The Things We Hide. His incredible story just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I think this describes millions of Americans. We live in fear. We live in fear of what could happen. We waste so much energy on thinking about something that could happen to us. Many Americans have impostor syndrome, especially the Gen Zs that suddenly get promoted into a role in which they're managing teams that could be their father's age. Tyler Dickerhoof is in the studio, and we're going to talk about his upcoming book, The Things We Hide.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I appreciate
Absolutely.
the opportunity to be here with you and talk about this.
Well, you're amazing, and we got introduced through a mutual friend, Amberly Lago, so let's give a shout out to her. But I want to start in your childhood, because you had a traumatic event that happened when you were 14 years old.
Yeah. I grew up on a dairy farm in the Midwest. I grew up in Ohio, and when I was 14, I drove over my younger brother in a farming accident. He was 3, I was 14, and he tragically died that day. And one of the things that realizing many, many years later in my late 30s is the impact of that event that, of course, I was impactful, but never registered.
Right.
And what happened from that event is I chose intensity as a way to get through. I just put my head down and push, whether it was that afternoon as I'm getting questioned by the sheriff, or years later, my wife, clients, friends. I would just put my head down and push and become intense. And I so much later realized that that response to my fears, my insecurities, do I have value? Am I worthwhile? Because it worked in that moment my brother died, but I also used it when I was getting teased, when I was getting, just normal things in life that do I have value? Am I good enough? I would just become intense.
Well, I think kind of a saving grace is you never felt guilt. You recognized it was an accident. Yeah. Everybody knew it was an accident. So you didn't torment yourself for the last, 30 years.
I'm grateful for that. I can't imagine how if I'd been riddled with guilt. Yeah. Now, again, I wish it didn't happen, but I can also sit here today. If I hadn't come to grips with that event and my brother's life having purpose, we wouldn't be sitting here.
Right.
And one of the great motivators for me to tell the story of his life and, the impact it had on me was to give his life purpose, to be able to share with others, to say, hey, these are how our fears and insecurities affect us.
Yes.
And they show up in ways, I call them walls. Intensity is one of them. There's 3 other walls, kind of build a house around us. And how do we put these walls around us to protect us from our fears and insecurities? And I have those moments. And as I've interacted and spoken on stages and to many people, realizing, these start to show up.
Yes.
And my hope is, as I had to recognize and grow from it, that I can help others in the same way.
We're going to pull up your website, and as we scroll on the website, I want you to talk about the kinds of audiences that you like to speak to, and you do group coaching.
Yeah. So I have a group coaching community called The Round Table. It's I found that I grew through transformation in a group. I tell people this, I'm not good enough to do one-on-one. Now, that's a tongue-in-cheek, but I find that, and I learned this from my mentor, John Maxwell, it's layered learning. I share, you share, 3 other people share. All of a sudden, we've all learned faster than if it's just a one-on-one. So that's a community I love to host and facilitate. And I love to speak to people honestly, that are willing to do the work. And, so often that's the challenge is like, I want someone else to do it. They're not going to. As I share with people in my community, you have to do the work on your own, but you don't have to do it alone.
Yes. We're going to pull up your the book page off of your website because this book comes out in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about this. It took you a year to write?
Yeah, it was a journey to come up with it, but to sit down and actually put pen to paper was about a year process, which, as I learned, is most books.
Yeah.
And I actually enjoyed it. It was fun going through the stories and kind of reiterating and living those back. But the whole time, again, coming back to the life of my brother and realizing that this is giving his life purpose is pretty fulfilling in and of itself.
And had you written about your brother before?
No, not really. I mean, I'd spoken a little bit on stages, maybe through a newsletter or two, but not to the extent of this. And really the impact that incident had on my life that I had no, comprehension. But yet everything that those fears and insecurities manifested them continued to show up in so many relationships.
Okay, let's talk about fear and limiting beliefs because I think we're all guilty of this.
Yeah. It's been amazing to me through this, my own journey, but having the conversations with people. And here's what I think is most meaningful and impactful. I was 14. And when I talk to people, the number of people that have some type of interaction, event, situation between 10 and 14 that stays with them for their whole life. I had a guy tell me one time he was told that he would never be able to write a book. He was dyslexic, didn't have the skills. He's written 17. But he still, every time he writes a book, he holds on to what that teacher told him at that age. And what I find is so many of us create this, I would say, framework of I can't, or this fear that is overpowering them.
Yes.
So one of the last piece of the book, the last section, is reframing those mindsets and beliefs.
Yes.
Because they aren't real, but yet we hold on to them and we have agency to change them. But we have to do the work.
All right, let's talk about the danger of living in the past.
Yeah.
Because there are countless people watching this right now. They went through a divorce, they lost a job, they lost a loved one.
Yeah.
People can stay paralyzed for a long, long time.
Yeah. I think the challenge there is if we feel alone on an island, we're the person that marooned us there. The reason the title of this book is The Things We Hide. Jeff, you and I are sitting down 20 years ago. I'm trying to tell you how good of a salesperson I am, how good of a consultant I am. I'm not sitting here saying, I hope I am, but really I'm hiding and I'm trying to cover up what I have hidden of my value, my worth through my intensity. And we all hide things. We all have things that either we believe are the truths or not. And so sitting with that shame, that doesn't help anyone. And in a day and age where connections are more meaningful than ever, relationships are more meaningful than ever, the only way we can really have true relationships is if we're open and vulnerable. And that's being authentically vulnerable.
Sure.
It's not telling people all your worst dirty secrets and just kind of poor me, but it's saying, hey, Jeff, I had this happen with me. And all of a sudden you start to say, oh, I can relate to him. I've had stuff too. Wow, we can do this together. That's what I find is so powerful in our world today is the ability to carry those burdens with others and not on our own.
All right, let's talk about the power of self-talk.
Yeah.
Because I think we're all guilty of this. We look in the mirror and they say, I could lose 5 or 10 pounds, and we end up becoming our greatest critic.
Here's the way I frame that. Would you work for the person that talks to you like the way you talk to yourself? Probably not. You'd walk out the door. Now, if you talk to yourself and you're empowering, it's like, oh, you can do things. You'd probably work for them for a long time.
Yes.
And that's how I look at this is our inner talk's like, do we want to be around that person? And most often not. Well, we have the power and agency to change that. Here's something else. As long as people have lived on this earth, thousands and thousands and thousands of years, they've all dealt with it. It's not new. And so part of the journey is not something new I'm bringing, but just realizing we're not alone in this journey. And it is just a piece of life. And where this is powerful is as I've had to go through these things, so have you. So is everyone else watching today. We've all had to go through this and we're not alone.
Yes.
And so the ability to say, hey, I'm not different. But what I have, I don't need to hide from it.
So when you find yourself, as we all do, criticizing ourselves, do you do a record scratch and get yourself saying positive affirmations, or give us an exercise? Like what can we do if we're trapped in that downward spiral of self-criticism?
I was told to me this: you're not as good as you think you are, but you're not as bad as you think you are either. And it really comes to that realistic place. And what I encourage people is go ask a couple people around you. Hey, what do I do that I'm great at? And they will tell you. There are things that everyone does that they're great at. I tell this story in my book. It's called Bringing Out the Best in Yourself by Bringing Out the Best in Others. And I tell how John Wooden would coach his basketball players. He'd bring them all in to practice. He'd watch them all play, and then he'd stop them and say, Bill, as in Bill Walton, the Hall of Famer, hey, when you get the ball there, you shoot. And then he'd go to another player, hey, when you get the ball, you pass it to Bill, or you shoot here. They started to quickly find out what they did that supported the team. We all have that opportunity. Wow. We just need to be vulnerable enough to ask people instead of believing what we're telling ourselves.
All right, I mentioned off the top of the show imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And we do live in a generation in which there are so many different generations in the workplace. And often the Gen Zs are being put into a role in which they're managing people who could be their dad or their granddad. How does somebody deal with imposter syndrome?
The view I have on imposter syndrome is we're telling ourselves a lie. If you don't know what you're doing, it's great, because you've probably never done it before. It's a good place to be. Where there's an opportunity is from a leader. Don't expect people to do what they can't do and don't know how to do.
Yes.
Guide them, lead them, show them. And so that's as much an indictment on our leadership ability than it is on the person themselves.
Yes.
The biggest thing there for both sides is recognizing it and asking for help. To put your arms in the air and say, hey, why do I wear black shirts? Because I get sweaty pits. So this way it's hidden. I can roll with it. It's good. It's easy. I don't have to worry about the background and clashing. And so it's just being okay with that to say, I don't know what I'm doing. Great. Help me. Guide me. Instead of thinking, oh, I need to prove that I'm worthy. Because then it all comes back to our insecurity. If you're there in the job, you got it for a reason.
Yes.
Own that and say, now I need help. Guide me, lead me.
All right. Tyler is a content machine. Not only does he have his own very popular show that has something like 250 episodes, but he's a guest on many, many podcasts. I found one that you were on. Let's go ahead and roll that clip.
And I had to grow through that and had to realize the things that I was hiding, the insecurities, the fears, really put these walls around me. And if we can start sooner, we can recognize that and come back to what you said very beginning is like, hey, let's create a legacy and use what we're great at as opposed to, oh, I'm just going to fit in. Real estate is bad, so it's bad. I'm just going to give up. It's like, oh no, there's a greater calling for me.
Yeah. And I, I will tell you right now, because I know there's a lot of people listening, those insecurities and fears, they're still here. I just want to I'm still insecure. I still get afraid. There's a great saying is if you're not afraid of what you're trying to do, that means you're not thinking big enough, right? So like every day when I'm doing these lofty goals, I'm scared to death, So like, I don't want someone to think like, oh, maybe I won't be afraid. No, it's courage, right? Courage is being afraid and doing it anyway because it's the right thing to do. Like that's how you have to live your life. But those insecurities, like I still sometimes wake up and going, why would somebody want to listen to me? Like, what do they call it? Impostor syndrome, right? I still sometimes have those moments going, right? But then you snap out of it and then you say, you know why? But those things will always linger. Like, so I hope people don't think that one day that just disappears. Like some of the greatest speakers in the world still get sick right before they walk on stage, right? Like, and they're on 150 stages a year, so fear doesn't go away just because you're doing more. I just want to make sure everybody realizes that, because again, I'm afraid every day I wake up and going, I can't believe I'm doing this, right?
I think one of the things that I've grown to realize, and this comes back to what you said earlier, that all the level of fear changes. We'll have those fears, the insecurities, right? And I've seen them in my life and, as I talk to people, interact with people, almost universal. Am I enough? Do I have value? Do people respect me? And again, coming back to the am I enough? And the thing that changes that is belief. And to me, it's really a mindset. And it comes back to that I do have value and finding ways like you talked about earlier, being on the stage you were at, being, here talking to us, it's leaning into that belief. And so when, the imposter syndrome, as you said, and, the insecurities show up is to say, oh, yep, there it is. Okay. But yet I know and believe differently. And what I've learned to do is just be authentically, yep, this is what I am. This is who I am. I don't have it figured out, right? I still have these. Oh, yep, there it's showing. And I found that drives my personal belief. But what I recognize is that's also a way for me to connect with others.
Brilliant. I want to tackle like adversity. So, so many people live in fear of adversity, but I imagine a teenage Tom Brady. He's not dreaming of winning the Super Bowl by 50 points. He's dreaming of it's 30 seconds to go and I'm down by 6 points. And he's in the huddle and he's like, guys, we're going to be in the end zone together.
Yeah.
Talk about the power of like optimism, even if you don't have it figured out.
Man, I think the thing that I believe there is be glad to be in the game. And it's so much, that's such a mindset shift. Oh, I got to be the guy that's going to win the game. Now just be in the game. Because there's a place for everyone. And it comes a little bit back to that John Wooden story is, I tell the story in my book as well about Swen Nater. Okay, you don't have to be an old-time basketball fan, but Swen Nater is a Hall of Famer. He never started a game in college.
Wow.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Wow.
Because he backed up probably the only other Hall of Famer better than him, Bill Walton. And that story to me resonated so much because it's like, you don't have to be the best to have value. And so that adversity, it comes down to, if I need to prove myself, well, then it's your insecurity.
Yes.
Then it's your insecurity challenging you. Are you good enough? You're perfect. But you have a skill set that I don't have and vice versa. And that's okay. And so if we can tap into those, if we can recognize those. No, I'm saying this as a 46-year-old. It took me years to figure that out. But I also know the years that I took to figure it out can be shortened once we understand that, hey, those fears and insecurities are there. I need to own how they show up. Now, how do I start to reframe those mindsets of belief? And that comes to people saying, hey, again, Jeff, what do you see in me that I can't see? Because I can't see it. And so then I can't hold on to it. And it really is this belief factor.
Can we train our brain to look forward to adversity? Like this setback happened. I lost this big client. This thing canceled. You look for the gold.
I was just here for an event in Dallas. John Maxwell, he's a huge mentor of mine. He has a new book coming out. It's called The Return on Failure. And so the idea, and he shared, and I believe it comes to this point, is if you keep failure and success close, then you can look forward to it. But if all of a sudden you're defined by your success or your failure, then you're in trouble. But if you understand, I can't have success without failure, and failure leads me to my next success, it's a whole mindset shift, right? Growing up, so often it's like, oh, you failed, instead of like, hey, you failed, great. And I've been in some of those conversations where I've seen, coaches that applaud failure. Oh, that was a great try, right? As opposed to, oh my goodness, you missed, what are you doing? And we hold on a lot of those childhood events from parents, from coaches, and we hold that into our professional life. The worst thing I can do is fail. They're going to think badly about me. The people watching are think, oh my goodness, this guy failed. When in reality, it's like, yeah, I failed. Well, so did everyone else. But I'm not a failure. Because I continue to work at it, and there'll be success come. And I think it comes back to when you embrace that adversity, you start to get excited about it. You start to find that moment, oh, this is a little challenging. Something good's gonna come. Great. But it takes such a mindset shift. But to me, people will talk about it all the time. Oh, change your mindset, beliefs. But they never dealt with their insecurity and fear to begin with. And recognize, and they want to hide it and think, oh, I can make that go away. Like, no. That's there in all of us.
And at the end of the day, when we think about Michael Jordan, we don't think about all those shots he took at the buzzer where he missed. We don't think about his baseball career that didn't go as well as he wanted it to go. All right, we have about a minute left, so I want you to look into the camera on the left and talk to the viewer who might be struggling with imposter syndrome or fear, anxiety.
You're not alone. We all have it. whoever you admire, whoever you look up to, whoever is a mentor in your life, they have fears and insecurities as well. Now, here's what our opportunity is. We can choose to own how they show up. And when we do that, that authentic vulnerability, as I mentioned with Jeff earlier, is people will come to you. I have this belief, empathy is putting your arms around people and walking with them. When you're authentically vulnerable, when you own who you are, not as an excuse, but own who you are and allow others to put their arm around you, that's when you can start to do magical things. But it comes back to you got to do the work on your own. You don't have to do it alone. And you find those people that are willing to put their arm around you and walk with you. Then all of a sudden, the imposter is just a make-believe. It's not something real because you are who you are and you have value to offer to everyone around you. And it's a choice.
Wow. Beautiful way to end this broadcast. We're also going to leave you with his website, which again is Tyler Dickerhoof.com.
Yep, you nailed it.
I had so much trouble with that name.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Tyler, thank you for coming on.
Appreciate it.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.